Welcome to 2024 in DIY, my annual look at the things I've been building and tinkering with. Some of them you've seen, others you might see in a future video, or not at all. So if you see something you'd like, drop a comment to increase the likelihood of me covering it in a copious amount of detail. But for now, roll intro. Hello there and welcome. I guess that you're here for the project instead of watching me playing my little arcade. So let's just go through this year's highlights. Starting with the Amiga mouse switch that I did a few years back, but accidentally left a just-in-case diode on the PCB. So that was annoying and confusing, meaning that right-click didn't work on the mouse. So I guess, oopsie. As for what it is, it's a quick way to swap your mouse for a joystick. Generally only an annoyance for those with friends that are willing to play with you and you're willing to let someone else touch your second favorite joystick. If you have one of the old ones, short across D4 to upgrade. The updated PCB does away with that, as well as add an enable jumper for the scroll wheel, in case you need it. And as a surprise to absolutely everyone who have not been paying attention, I played around with some more MIDI stuff. Originally intended as a one-off project, because I have no idea how to work any of the musical stuff. And with that in mind, a 2-year MIDI extravaganza is just plain, let's say, madness. Good news first, I actually built up the bulky MIDI 32 internal that was just a pile of blanks. Then disaster struck. It worked the first time I tried it. Sad times all around, and I never got around to actually installing it. Well, there's always next year. Maybe I'll get lucky. And then, Surdaco tempted me with the possibility of owning a proper licensed MIDI daughter board. Then I realized that the sound card I wanted to install it on didn't actually have a wavetable connector. So I sent out a patrol to the deep web looking for ancient plans for building something to use it externally. Then adapted it to the components that I actually have, the cheap ones. I even made a video. Ooh. And what do you do with a couple of 5V PSUs that you can trust, and a ton of bulky MIDI 32 devices? Do I buy more? No, not at all. I wouldn't do that. I spent twice the amount by building a fancy module to switch them on and off using relays, because relays are cool. There's an Arduino in there because I wanted a single click to turn things on, a hold to turn something off, and enough silicon to remember what should be on and what should be off when I insert the power plug. And yeah, that's about as much as I can say about a somewhat smart power plug. And now for something completely different, because 2 years ago I took a break from my new fascination for MIDI in order to build a Wi-Fi modem based on Z modem. I tried to build it 3 different ways, but all of them failed to actually do much of anything. I really wanted a modem for my C64 and other vintage computers, but 3 revisions with nothing to show for it was just a step too far, so I threw it into a box somewhere. Until I picked it up this year in 2024. Armed with a screaming 2-year-old, lack of sleep and really no new information, I concluded that this was the moment to pick it up again and finally get somewhere. Meaning that I took the final step. I spent 5 minutes on an oscilloscope, and before long I had it working. Who knew an ESP8266 could be so much fun? And how does it stack up to any others like it? Meaning Wi-Fi modems. This one works on RS-232 and Commodore 64 without changes to the firmware. Yes, I actually did it in hardware. All of it so that I could dial a BBS in 2024 from a Commodore 64. I'll spare you all of the digital screaming, because this one doesn't do that. Yet. Then I saw that C-Modem had extra features when running on an ESP32. Because I had no idea what I was doing with an ESP32, I built a smaller mini version, like what a less sleep-deprived person would have done before throwing features at something he doesn't understand. Because I thought it would be funny, I called it Bulky Modem 32. And yes, I confuse myself with that pretty often. And though it's a mini, it does what a standard Wi-Fi modem does. Except it's only RS-232. One thing though, where there's a mini, there has to be a standard version. And it does exactly the same things as the first version, just with some extra features. The ESP32 also takes memory cards, though you have to know that it's still serial. And when you want a serial terminal that isn't in a window, meaning the old kind of terminal, the kind that doesn't boot, it just turns on. And people have already done the heavy lifting. So here's my version of Versaterm. It takes a PS2 keyboard, serial, and outputs VGA. And putting the two together, here's what we get. Only a burning desire to set the baud rate to something faster than 1200. Which I could, but I forgot to do so. Something that's new for this year entirely, that I've been working on a secondary channel dedicated to RCs. And after a year of working on it, I have 17 subscribers. If I discount immediate family and some bots, then I probably have one real subscriber. Whoever you are, thank you. And to commemorate the occurrence of me surviving the last episode of The Crown, I ended up building this CC01 kit from Tamiya. It's the Defender 90 in a forest green. Strangely enough, it's too fast. Pivoting over to something that's supposed to be fast, the TT02B, only because I wanted to drive angry, and I spent too much time building it, so it's more of a casual thing now. And for my last trick, it's a Volkswagen Golf, only because I could never get the Ford Escort kit to work right. So I guess this year's theme is trying to do things that I couldn't do before. And by the way, this was a Fiat. And now it's a Golf, because I messed it up, again, just in a different way. And now for something, well, more of the same, though this time with relevance for both of the channels. It's another RC dashboard, but this one based on ESP32 Super Mini development boards. The plan was to have something that would look good inside an RC. OLED isn't updating fast enough for my liking, but in that size there's not much else. High and low beams as well as brake lights, mainly because I think that makes a good combination. Happy with that, I heard about the existence of something called rock lights. I don't have any, but I thought that it would be fun to build one. The idea is that with a crawler, and you're going slowly up rocks and stuff, so the rock lights would highlight by increasing the light on the tire you're focusing on at the moment. Becomes a light controller that looks at your speed and steering angle, then does its magic with the lights. Some might call that a slow day, but I call it an excuse to actually go outside. I also added a bunch of modes, just in case one of them might be useful. For the pièce de résistance. Also me desperately trying to defend my need for another vintage computer, or retro computer that is, the Spectrum. And this controller is pretty old. So for the project I wanted to revisit it and see if I can renew it a bit. Nope, not that one. That's the one that didn't work. Here it is. Something made for the Spectrum. It had to be RoboCop. And now it uses GP2040 for the firmware.
Yes, for the USB functionality.
And as for the other support, we still support Kempston. So, here you go. It wouldn't be a GP2040 project without an arcade variant. I hope to be in a proper arcade stick one day, because everyone keeps putting the stick on the left side, and I'm right-handed. I can write with both hands, so there's that. Just not at the same time, because that would be something special. Well, then that's probably it for this year. Okay, there's more, but let's focus on building things and not the things that do nothing more than blow up. So, maybe 2025 is the year to fix everything, or at least don't make anything worse. Bye!